All right, so we'll just get loosened up a little bit.
I'm loose.
How do I look? You look great.
Thanks.
All right, so one of the dangers is sitting back too much. It makes us look frumpy, so. All right.
I can go the frumpy look. We should almost start that way. And like one of the dangers of getting too comfortable.
Dude, we're going to use all these outtakes.
Oh, are we rolling right
now?
Oh, frumpy. Not frumpy. Frumpy.
All right. So, hey, the number one most searched term is financial advisor when it comes to retirement planning. Mm-hmm. What do you think about when it comes to that?
I think that they should be searching for behavioral advisor.
Behavioral advisor.
Right. Behavioral finance is one of the quickest, fastest growing pieces in the financial world, specifically because, it's not so much what's the best product out there or what's going to be the best return, it's what's the best fit. But I always love to give people an introduction to behavioral finance about cookies. And so I used to say I was a fat kid in hiding, but not so much in hiding, especially if I go like this, no longer in hiding. But those oatmeal, the oatmeal cream cookies,
you
got two of them, the pie. And most people don't know this, but you can buy it in 3 ways. So yeah, it's really showing now. But number one, you can buy them at the checkout counter, sometimes a single pack, but it's hit or miss. Is it going to be there or not? And then you're kind of disappointed if you've been waiting the whole time.
You've thought about this.
I've done this. This is my life.
Right. Oatmeal cream pies.
And so then you got the small box, and then Meijer and the grocery stores now do a great job of telling you the price per ounce for these things. And so you can get the big box. Now here's what's cool about the big box. Not only do you get more cookie, but each cookie is bigger. It's fantastic.
Right.
So if I go shopping hungry, I buy the big box, and here's where it's and so I know I'm being influenced by what? Hunger. And everybody has something. Like we all know, don't go shopping hungry. Why?
It's a bad idea.
Because you know you're being influenced. So I know I'm being influenced by it. Yet I still succumb to this emotion or while of course for the next week I'll regret it. And to make it even worse is that if my kids get into it, I got 3 of them, they they go through it all, then I'm upset. And then if I hide them, then I'm upset at myself because I hid them and now I eat them all.
Have you ever grounded your kids because they ate your cookies?
No. I should though. Maybe see if that would change it.
You gotta set the standard.
But so it's completely irrational the way, I know I'm being influenced by that. But in finance, we ask you what? Like, well, if you put in, X amount of money into a well-diversified portfolio and 3 months later lost X amount of value, what would you do? Well, that'd be like asking me right now, I'm not hungry. Mike, if you went to the store today, would you buy any oatmeal cookies? No. If I don't eat till 4 o'clock and I go to the store to get, a rotisserie chicken, I'm going to leave with a box of cookies even though I would say right now I won't.
Right.
Because you're being influenced by behaviors.
Okay, so good story. I totally understand the cookie thing. I've been there myself. But how does that relate to people who are searching for financial advisor near me?
That's what we know. That's the term people know. It's more common. But quite frankly, if you're just looking for a financial advisor, do it yourself.
Do it yourself.
Go on Vanguard. A traditional financial advisor, they're not addressing your behaviors. And one of those behaviors is, are you saving enough? It's not math. Because you can do the math. You can go get a calculator, and it'll say, here's how much you'll have. Is that enough? Right? Here's your goal. Here's what it'll be. Nope, not enough. Increase it. That was simple.
Right.
But advisors who are just sitting there, and when I think of financial advisor, that's what I think of. Somebody goes, well, here's a good mutual fund. And they're going to explain that mutual fund to you. And are you even really going to listen? People like to say they are. They're not. It's like when my dentist starts going and telling me all this stuff they're going to do. Am I really listening, or am I thinking, how much is this going to cost? And boy, is it going to hurt.
Yeah.
I don't like a profession that the only way they make money is drilling and filling.
Right. I think people understand about your scarcity towards dentists.
Right. That's a different subject, different day. But, so behavioral, though, we're going to address some different biases. So a big one that I see is overconfidence. Overconfidence because you went through 08 as an example. I hear this one all the time. Mike, I've been through 08. If I made it through that, we're not going to have another great recession, are we? And it's like they want to argue about or debate, are we going to have a downturn as big as that? It's irrelevant. The fact that you're using that as a level of confidence that you'll make it through the next one is false. Because watch this. I meet people all the time, and they've got, maybe they had, let's say, $150,000 in 2008, a nice retirement fund, okay? And today, though, they've got $500,000. It's grown, right? Everything's exploded. They've been putting money away. Awesome, cool. A normal downturn, though, we lose 40%. And so if you look at recessions, There's been some that have been more. There have been some that haven't hit that 40% mark. But if you look at it, you're going to find more often than not, 40 is kind of a good number. It's the number I always use. Anticipate 40%. If I'm wrong and it's 38, like COVID, it's 38. Now it was for a blip of a moment. That was like, right? But count on 40. If you have $500,000 today, think about it. If you have 400,000, if you have 400,000, what's 40% of 400?
350?
160.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I did it backwards. Yeah.
So it's 160,000. They had 100. So if you have 400 today and you lose 40%, you're going to lose 160,000. That's more than what you even had in 2008 if you had 150.
Right.
Or if you had 200,000 in 08 and you have 400,000 now, your loss will be double what it was then if it's 40 to 40, right?
Okay.
It's 80 versus 160. So somebody goes, well, I made it through 08, Mike. I'm good. That's like me saying, you know what? 20 years ago, I used to be able to hit a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. So if you can throw 93, I'm good. I've already been there.
Is that true? Because you actually hit a 95.
Yeah.
Eyes open?
Right.
Okay, all right.
I even took a 95 to the face. That's
Right.
So, but just because you've done it before doesn't mean you can do it today. I used to be able to run a mile. I don't think I can do that anymore.
Cookies.
My knees, yeah. It's
If there was cookies at the end of that mile, maybe.
I'd hop in my car. I'd get my kids to do it.
Right.
There's a whole box waiting for you after 4 laps.
Right.
Whole box minus what I'm going to take.
Yeah. Taxes.
So overconfidence, huge. And then people's actions aren't aligned with their goals.
So hold on 1 second. So you're saying a normal financial advisor is not taking any of this into account and they're just going to talk about a single product or a group of products.
Correct. They're not taking, well, they'll say they're taking into account your investor tolerances, right, and risk tolerances because they gave you a questionnaire. And that questionnaire was, well, if you put X amount into a stock and it loses 30% in value, would you A, jump off a cliff, B, go buy a puppy, C, call your advisor in panic, or D, buy more? I don't know. I don't know why I'm buying a puppy in this example. I guess I'll call the advisor and see what he thinks.
Right.
But you're not in the moment.
Right.
It's not real. Real things have more impact than non-real things. Like you've got kids, right? You've got like a whole basketball team of kids.
Indeed, yes.
Did you ever are you like the youngest, oldest? What are you?
In my family, I'm the oldest.
Well, that doesn't work. Imagine you're the young, but like you've had friends that had kids before you, right?
Yes.
And did you ever look at them and go, I see what they're doing in punishment. I'll never do it that way.
Right.
My kids will not do what those kids are doing because my kids have a better gene pool.
Of course, yeah.
Right. Or they're going to have a better discipline. I'm not going to allow that to happen. And yet then you eat crow, right? 5 years later, you're like, oh my gosh, my kids are doing that? I thought they never would. They're all doing it?
Little humble pie.
Right. Because when you're not in that moment, when it's not you, it's easy to go, I wouldn't do it that way. That's a stupid way to do it. But when you're in that moment and they're throwing a fit at at Olive Garden, do you suddenly be like, fine, here's the iPad, for the love of Pete, just be quiet. We've all done it.
Right.
We've done something we said we wouldn't have.
So
finance isn't different.
Right. So what you're saying is financial advisor near me is really taking somebody who's trying to get into retirement kind of down the wrong path altogether.
I think traditional finance is the wrong path. And every advisor is trained in traditional finance. I was trained in traditional finance.
Right.
Until I just started seeing a lot of inconsistencies with it and started studying. It really got captivated by behavioral finance before I even knew it was a thing, and it was 2008.
That's still kind of a big term. So behavioral finance, you're talking about the idea of helping people make decisions in retirement?
Getting to know themselves better and stop assuming that you'll act a certain way in a certain situation where if you haven't been really in that situation, how are you going to assume you'll do it?
Kind of summarize that. What's the best way to kind of compare the difference?
Suits.
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 Like this and that?
Yeah, suits.
Okay.
Traditional finance is buying it off the rack. It might fit, it'll be close. Behavioral finance is tailoring it. Every inch. And that tailor's done it thousands of times. They know where to take it in. They know what's going to make it look good. They know where it's going to hang. And I'm out of my realm here, right? On all their terms. There's a tailor listening right now like, that's not all we do.
Right.
But it's specific.
Right.
And, it's not just specific to your body type, but how you're going to be using it. Because I've had a bunch of suits tailored and things they ask me, like, are you going to be presenting? Or are you going to be using your hands? And how are you going to be using it? And they cut it for that.
Right.
And so the right cut for me is different than the right, like even if you had we're going to have to get you a lot of cookies to do this, but if you had the exact same body size, the right cut for me is going to still be different than the right cut for you.
Right.
Because you're going to use it differently.
Right.
So suits.
And so you make that metaphor or analogy because that's what you do. Legacy Financial tailors the retirement plan to each individual
We're on the
person.
leading edge of behavioral finance and doing it directly with the end user, the client.
One of the things I've heard clients say before is that they felt no pressure. There was no sales pitch. It was just literally like you and your team was just there to help them. And I just thought that was awesome. I mean, especially for something like retirement planning where, I mean, how many hours does an average pre-retiree work before they make the jump?
80,000.
80,000 hours.
40 years.
40.
50 weeks a year. 40 hours a week.
Hopefully you had a good time.
Yeah.
And so then you're sitting there and this guy in a suit potentially is pitching you a product. I can see why you're passionate about it.
I remember getting trained as an advisor, and they said if a good advisor, 20% of the people become a client of theirs. So it hit me right then. You're going to waste. But if we're concentrating on selling people stuff, we're going to waste 64,000 hours of our life. And I'm not even guaranteed to get that many.
Right.
At least not that many more. So change the focus from selling to how can we make an impact during those 64,000 hours.
All right. So a traditional financial advisor is going to try to sell somebody on their very first meeting, right? It's going to close them. Now, how is that different with legacy?
Well, first of all, I hate that term.
What
I
term?
wrote close.
Oh.
It just drives me over the wall. I even wrote an article in a trade magazine for this. I said, the 5 top words to get rid of in our industry, that was one of them. And the example I said is, imagine that you've had some type of legal problem and or even just you're making a trust, right? You're doing your estate and you're working with this lawyer, really highly regarded lawyer. And you've been going back and forth, so you haven't made up your mind. And finally, you tell this lawyer on, let's say, a Friday, yep, I'm going with you, let's get this done. And then you go out to the restaurant with your family and you overhear this, this group at the bar celebrating. And you hear your lawyer going, finally closed the Markey case. How'd you feel at that moment?
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel like we were in a relationship at that moment, that they were working for me. I would feel like they were working to get me. So first of all, you want to see how you're different. Stop using, we won't use words like close.
Right.
How is it different though? Yeah, a lot of firms are going to try to sell you a product right away. What we believe in is taking you through a process. Because in that process, if I can start teaching you, if our team can start teaching you how to, not only to understand these biases that you're going to have, and then so it's a journey, right? The first thing is we got to start telling you about what they are. Because you don't even know what they are yet.
What are?
These biases that are inherent in us as people
Right.
in regards to finance. So first, we got to start teaching you about the biases. Then we have to start helping you see where you have them, and then we have to show you how to overcome them. You can't do that in a meeting.
No.
I got to do that over a series of meetings, over a series of weeks, sometimes months. And at the end, if you become a client and we're a good fit, awesome. If not, it's cool. If I see at Meijer, I'm not going to jump into the frozen food aisle and go, oh, there they are. So, if you believe in what you're doing and you're doing something that's going to change lives, then it's going to be a process. And so the outcome is how can we touch people? How can we make impacts? And how can we teach people? And that's what we're teaching.
So process. So somebody is searching financial advisor near me. You gave some really good advice there about the big picture. What's the very next step? Let's just say that they're a potential retirement planning client for you. What's the very first step you have?
So the first thing is our team meets with everybody incoming and it's not an advisor you're meeting with, okay? You're going to meet with somebody from our office. And what they're doing, I'm giving away the secret sauce, I guess, they're actually giving you a test that you don't know you're taking.
A test.
Yeah. They're asking you questions. So a lot of firms will dictate, like you see some of it, if you have over $250,000, the first 5 people who call will get this. And I always wonder, like, how, if I'm number 7, Do they go, hey,
Sorry.
better luck next time, right?
Yeah.
Notice how, like, if you've ever called those numbers, you're never turned away.
Right.
You're always in the top 5. How cool is this?
It's amazing.
Yeah, right. Asterisks. Yeah. Only the first 5 asterisks, unless you're 7, then we'll still take you.
Right.
But
We're feeling generous today.
yeah. So what our team is evaluating, the test that you're taking that you don't know, that they're kind of taking for you, is do you need help, do you want help, and can we help?
Do you want help?
Do you need help?
Do you need help? Can we help?
Yeah.
Okay.
If somebody needs help and they want help, why wouldn't we? And again, assuming we can.
So you don't have any maximums or minimums?
No, if you have
account value?
$8,000 and you need help, if you've got $8 grand in a 401k, we're not going to make a penny. I'll guarantee you. I've always said basically on $100,000 or less in assets, it's probably a losing. I've had people apologize. I know I'm probably not bringing enough. We knew that coming in. By the time I've been working, we'll go through this process, and let's say it's 2 months in, they're like, I don't know if I should, come on board. Why? I don't have enough money. Like, I've known that for 2 months now. Like, we made the choice, right?
Right.
It's cool. It's all right. Because if you need help and you want the help, and we're in a position where we can help, I don't care what you got. We'll help you. Let's do it. But if you got a bunch of money, you might need the help. We can help, but you don't want it? Good for you. Go to Vanguard. Go to Fidelity. Call an 800 number. Get one of those financial advisor things. They'll sell you something.
So on the note of being a fiduciary, right? We may hear this term of like a comprehensive financial plan or a full financial plan, like
Or an income plan. They like to call us. Get your income plan.
right.
Yeah.
All right. So how would you compare what you guys do here at Legacy versus what some of the other quote unquote advisors may be doing?
Yeah.
How's it different?
Well, licensing can be different too. But let's just say you've got the insurance side and investment side. There are a lot of people who will only be one. So they'll only be investment related or they'll only be insurance related. And the theory behind that from a regulatory standpoint is that I can now be a fiduciary because in these watered down standards, fiduciary basically says, hey, you still need to make a living, so you're just going to put them in the best product or services that are available to you. Well, if I don't have the license to put you in this other thing, then I'm acting, within the realms.
So you're saying licensing, right? So if somebody is going to see a new advisor and they're interviewing him before they hire him, what would be a good question they should ask?
I would ask, do you have an insurance license? They say, yes, great. Do you have an investment license? And I would never work with somebody who only had one. I'm biased in that. Let's talk about biases, right?
Sure.
Because I have both.
Right.
But there was a reason I have both. That'd be like me telling you, well, I don't think you should buy a Prius to haul stuff. Buy a F-350. Well, would I be biased if I sold Fords? Sure. But if you're looking to go get groceries and I told you that, well, that's bad advice. But if you're looking to, pull a horse trailer, then was I biased to say you should have a truck? Sure. But it didn't make the advice wrong.
Right.
So I'm biased to say that your advisor should be duly licensed, but it's not wrong. Because when you work with somebody who's just an investment license, and they, maybe you hear something like clearly different. I always like to joke if you have to say how you're different, you're clearly not. But that's my own opinion. But they're just going to be one shoe, one-sided. They're, are they going to tell you need a truck? Sure, they're going to tell you need a truck because all they got is trucks.
Right.
And then if you go to the insurance-only guy that says, well, keep your money safe. Well, what does that mean? Am I keeping up with inflation? Because inflation's kind of here right now. Is it safe? Don't lose money. Don't lose money to what? Don't lose money to the market or don't lose money, period? Am I losing a nominal value? Well, we'll never lose money if you do this. What do you mean?
There's a few different ways you can look at it.
And so somebody like that, I'm going to be like, well, do you have an investment license? No, I do not, and here's the reasons I don't. I don't care what your reasons are. Good for you. You got reasons. Everyone's got reasons, and you've probably been asked 100 times, so you're going to give me a good answer. Why even ask the question? I wrote a book a number of years ago, and one of the things that they wanted in there was a chapter on people, and I regret to this day, I'll tell you why, about asking for references from an advisor. And I succumbed to the pressure, I'll say, of putting that in the book. It's the stupidest thing. Every advisor, why, right? Why would that be a bad thing to ask for references? Because what advisor is not going to be able to give you good references? Am I going to give you a list of people that were unhappy?
Right.
It's irrelevant. It makes you feel better.
Right. It's like if I submitted a resume with references, I'm not going to put somebody who's going to talk bad about me.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. So you talked about the reasons, right? What was the reason that you decided to specialize in retirement planning? Because you're a financial advisor, but you're
No,
specialized.
I'm an investment advisor.
Investment advisor.
Right.
Okay, so there's two different things there.
Correct. Investment advisor is that higher fiduciary standard.
Okay, so you're an investment advisor who specializes in retirement planning specifically. Okay, got it?
Yeah, I would say specifically in behavioral.
Okay, fair enough,
yeah.
fair enough. Now, why did you make that decision? Because that doesn't happen by accident.
2008.
Okay.
And so I was on the east side of the state of Michigan, and I always like to say my clients were in one of three categories. They were in healthcare, they were in automotive, or they were in construction. So healthcare, automotive, or construction. And I heard a lot of people tell me, well, Mike, I know how the game is played. The markets go up, it goes down, you just ride it out. And all of these people who told me they knew how, and they were all a little bit into, they weren't into retirement, but these people that I'm thinking of right now, they were in their 50s, so they've been through some turbulent financial times, and yet I watched a bunch of them panic. But it was the anomaly, right, something that stood out, that bothered me. I noticed that people in healthcare that I was witnessing, they were tending not to panic. They weren't cashing out their 401ks. So why? As I've thought about it, and I got, like, you talk about staying up at night. This is something that just kept me up at night. Why? Just asking that question, why? And being fascinated, captivated by it, obsessed about it. And what I found out over time is, and what I attributed to it, is it was comfort. Like, if you were in healthcare in 2008, you had lost, the same joke applied, my 401k became my 201k. Were you worried about your paycheck? Were you worried about getting laid off? Did you think that, hey, next week's layoffs, it might be me?
Right.
If you worked at Ford, you were still worried about loss of employment. If you saw a bunch of people you knew at GM who were getting laid off, you can't imagine, you can't say that it didn't cross their mind, hey, if this stays bad long enough, it might be me. And so when people started thinking they might lose their job, they start looking at the 401k not as an investment, but as an income replacement. The moment they started thinking, hey, you know what, if my daughter is going to go to college and I said I was going to pay for her tuition, I still, just because the markets didn't behave properly doesn't negate the promise that I made. And so the moment they started doing that, they started looking at it as something they might touch. The moment they start looking at it as something they might touch and use, it starts to become real. The moment it becomes real, the losses became real, and therefore they panicked. Because they started using terms like, I can't afford for it to lose any more. I can still do X, Y, and Z yet, but if it loses too much more, I can't. It was irrational. It didn't fit in line with what they said they were going to do. So I got obsessed about it. So I started focusing on behavioral finance before I even knew it was a thing. And then years later, found a book by Richard Thaler called Misbehaving, and it just felt like it was speaking to me.
Right.
I was like, this is everything that I've been, kind of theorizing. And it just spawned from there. So, I'm a behavioral advisor.
Helping people negotiate the turbulence in retirement, keeping them in between the lines, so to speak.
Helping them focus on their goals and aligning their actions with their goals.
Aligning your actions with your goals.
I had
Nice.
this client. This was probably about 10 years ago now. And they came in, and everything they wanted to accomplish, they could accomplish by putting all of their money in a CD making 1%. And so I remember writing this financial plan, and I'm using software. And at first, did it just the way I was trained, right? You're going to have this much in equities and this much in bonds and this much in retirement, like, maybe some insurance products. And then I'd wake up at night and go, but wait a minute, why even take the risk? They can accomplish their goals without this risk. So then I took a little bit out of the risk category and put a little bit more into the conservative category. And then the next day I woke up again, and it was like, all right, I had to have redone that plan a dozen times, maybe even more. I kept taking a slice out of the risk, putting it in conservative risk. In the end, we didn't put everything in a CD. But in the end, the math and the training said that they could probably take risk with maybe half their assets or more. And we ended up being like 30%. Because the thing that hit me, the thing that I kept hearing in my head was, if they can accomplish all their goals without taking, while taking less risk, what are they accomplishing by taking more risk?
And this is where I've heard you say the term victory formation. That's what you're talking about, right?
That was what it led up to it.
Right,
Victory
okay.
formation to me is just an easy analogy that when you watch the end of a football game, look at Michigan State, okay? Michigan State whooped our butts this year at the University of Michigan, right? Guy ran for what, 5 touchdowns, 5,000 yards in one game. I don't know how many yards he had. You know, he ran all the way to Ann Arbor and back. But at the end of the game, when the game was in line, this is what, like, if you're a fan, you should have been really upset when the quarterback took a knee. Why wouldn't you give it to the running back again? He didn't fumble the ball. He's scored more than anyone's ever scored. He's ran more yards than anyone's. That was your surest thing. Why would you abandon that strategy at the end of the game when that's what it took you to get there? He got you there. Why not keep beating the ball? Because the reality is you didn't need to. You could take a step back, take a knee, and win the game. And the end goal, what is the goal? Win the game. Yet, you know, and I was a college athlete. You know, I actually played on a team for USA over in Europe for a summer. So what I'm going to say next surprises people, but sports, it's a meaningless game. It is. I love it. I love what it teaches you. I love what it teaches young people. But the score is irrelevant, right? You can learn. I would say you can learn more in a loss than a win anyway. But it's a meaningless game, and yet in a meaningless game, you'll take a knee. You'll secure the victory when you can in the least risky way possible. Yet in something like retirement planning that you've spent 160,000 hours, if you're a couple, 80,000 hours each. You'll say, well, Mike, you know, if taking this road, this strategy got me here, why would I change it now? Because you can. You've got yourself in a position to take a knee. Take the knee. Win the game.
So what you're saying is not all about rate of return in retirement?
No. It's about meeting your goals. Mm-hmm. So if we can meet your goals while de-risking, if we can win the game while taking a knee, why not? It's a higher level of probability.